I call Claire Curran.
Mr Speaker, thanks for the opportunity to speak on the budget. Before I start, I'd like to join with my colleagues across the House in paying tribute to the Honourable John Carter. I think it's important to acknowledge his contribution, and during my 2.5 years in Parliament I've enjoyed the contact that I've had with the Honourable John Carter. I have found him at all times to be a gentleman, and honourable to boot. So I'd just like to put that on the record. That's correct. Mr Speaker, this is not a budget for our time, as at least one of the members across the House have said tonight. It's one of the worst budgets that I have known in my history, not only in this Parliament but in this country. I've heard one of my colleagues, Moana Maki, talk about that earlier on tonight, and I'd just like to say that what this budget represents is gloss, and it is all about gloss, and it's, well, I don't know about lip gloss, it could be lip gloss, but it is gloss, papering over the cracks, pretense, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it making stuff up, because I think that that's what this government does. And I've heard comments about austerity with spending, and all I can think of is what a crock that is, because at the heart of this budget lies a disconnect, and the disconnect is between telling us that it's that we all have to tighten our belts, that we have to make people who are the most vulnerable people in our society, particularly the ones on benefits, go out and look for jobs, and the jobs don't exist. And at the same time, the government blames everybody else on the situation that we're in. It's either the previous government's fault, it's the global financial crisis, it's the earthquakes, it's anything else but their own policies and their own way of doing things. So what we have is people being forced who can't find jobs, have found themselves in circumstances where they don't have jobs, to go and look for jobs, and the jobs don't exist because this government isn't investing in them. And I don't get that. There isn't a plan there. There isn't. Where is the kind of logic? I think logic is important. There is more to life than logic, but that plan doesn't have any logic. These people are vulnerable. The many, many, many thousands of people in our country who are looking for jobs. And instead we have a budget that's put before this country which is about more borrowing, it's about selling assets, our important assets, it's about cutting more services, and it's about economic stagnation. And there is no credible plan, and that's the real problem behind it. It's about making promises that can't be delivered on, it's about making claims that aren't true, and it's about making stuff up, being out of touch with ordinary Kiwis who are struggling to make ends meet. And I'm going to tell you about one of them, because one of them came into my office the other day, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of what's happening around this country. This man is in his 40s. He's worked hard all his life. He's done a lot of work. He's not what you'd call a skilled worker in the sense of being a tradesperson, but he does skilled work. But he doesn't have a qualification. But he's worked hard all his life. He is what you'd call a labourer, and there's lots of them out there. He's got a house and a mortgage, and his partner works in the kitchen of a mental health facility, which was reshuffled last year, so her hours were cut down to 16 per week. Because of this, he and his partner moved in together so that they could manage the mortgage. He's also got 2 previous children that he's paying child support for. He's doing the right thing, but he is seriously struggling. He can't pay his mortgage. He's getting seriously more and more behind. So what does he do? He goes to work and income day after day, looking for jobs, saying, I want to work. Tell me how I can find work. I will do whatever it takes to find work. So he says, I would like to get a qualification. He's applied for more than 50 jobs, by the way, and hasn't had any luck because there is so much competition in my city, as there is in every community around this country. He's interested in training. He wants to do anything. He wanted to get a forklift licence, but he can't get the forklift licence because he can't afford it. And Work and Income won't pay for it unless he's got a job offer. And that's like a catch-22 situation. This guy is in a catch-22. He can't get out of it. He came to my office because he doesn't know what to do. He's desperate. He's a hard-working person with responsibilities and a mortgage. He's facing losing his house and his dignity. And that's not good enough. What does this budget do for him?
Nothing.
These are the vulnerable people. They're not thieves. They're not rorting the system like some do at the other end of the spectrum. He's a good, honest, decent, hard-working bloke who's trying to make his life better and try basically to get by. And what does this government do? It makes him feel guilty, it makes him feel bad, and it makes his life harder. And there are thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are in this situation at the moment. So just turning to the other part of making stuff up, I'd like to talk just briefly about the elaborate charade that this country has been put through the last 2.5 years by the Minister of Communications or Miscommunications, Stephen Joyce, on trying to get in place a program around providing this country with the technology, with the infrastructure that underpins the technology that we need going into the future, ultra-fast broadband. A whole series of making stuff up and obfuscating and secrecy and not being upfront with the public. The first one was the pledge that was made in 2008. 75% of New Zealand households were going to be connected to ultra-fast broadband within 10 years. That was 75% of New Zealanders in their home were going to be connected to ultra-fast broadband for $1.5 billion. The most interesting thing about this is that the minister, the current minister, the Minister of, what is he? The Minister of Miscommunications, Stephen Joyce.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member, but the time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted and set down for resumption next sitting day. The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow.